Hi, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Endless Celts Podcast. Hope you're well, who's listening and watching. And before I introduce my co-host and my show regular today, I just want to make you aware, if you're on YouTube and you like what you're saying, hit subscribe and the wee bell so you're notified when we go live. But look, I'm joined by my co-host John and show regular Ross. How are you both?
Aye, good mate.
Oh, good mate. Good. How are you, Stephen?
I'm fantastic. It's been a great day. I don't know about you. I mean, this is recorded on Thursday and we go out on the Friday, but today's just been that little bit great. That's funny as well. But sure, we'll talk about the breaking news coming out of Scottish football, and that's obviously Stephen Gerrard's left our closest rivals Rangers, and he's jumped ship to Aston Villa. John, I'll come to yourself first here, and I'm pretty sure captains are meant to stay on a sinking ship, but he's leapt off it as quick as he can. But in terms of the situation regarding Celtic getting into the January transfer window, surely this is a button moment for the Celtic board to press it and go, we're taking advantage of this.
No, definitely. Absolutely. I mean, I think even before this situation with Gerrard arose, we were on the sort of mindset where you're saying to yourself, the board still need to invest in January. We still need to be strengthening the team regardless of the situation that's arose. But now we're in a position where obviously they've lost their manager. We know the financial issues that they've got. So whether or not they're going to bring somebody in, another big name or with that kind of caliber, it remains to be seen. But obviously, we're approaching the new year, the January window, and it's. I guess you could say if this sort of change to the personnel within Rangers, because remember Gerrard is reported to be taking like everybody with him, he's leaving them nothing. And a lot of the players that played for Rangers, that signed for Rangers under his tenure, signed because Gerrard was the manager. Wasn't it because necessarily who the club is, but because they relish the chance to work under Gerrard and stuff like that. So there's a lot of these players that seem let down. I heard Tavernier that he didn't even know until it was announced, and that's the club captain. So there's obviously an element of discontent within the club. I think the fans are certainly furious. It's been absolutely joyous to watch the meltdown today on various forms of social media and on the Super Scoreboard we listened to tonight. If anybody caught it, some of the calls were absolutely glorious. And I like to laugh about it, and we like to point fun because we went through this when the Howe thing happened. Remember, They were saying that we were in meltdown and that we were in big trouble. Then Big Ange came in the door and knew the Celtic train's rolling right through everybody, and knew they're left when they partway through the season that's already started. So I think we're definitely in a far better position. So the board need to, come January, don't change their whatever the sort of mindset was. That nothing needs to change in that respect. Like, they need to just continue as if Rangers are still, Gerrard's still there. Nothing's changing. We're still wrestling to get the title back, and we still need to go out and pull out all the stops. And by doing that, hopefully, we can shut this whole nonsense about them being an actual contender up and just run away with it.
Yeah, I thought 100% agree with what you said there, John. And Ross, between cardboard cutouts getting turned around against the wall, people punching cardboard cutouts and telling them to get up, it's been a crazy day all round. But again, as John said, it's all the shoes on the other foot. We had it with Eddie Howe and Brendan Rodgers far back as well, so we know how it feels, so we're just giving a bit back. But look, the Celtic board have had the opportunity before to kind of railroad Rangers, but they've let them creep back into it. And as John rightly said, they need to keep this mindset when there's a title challenge, and we need to take full advantage this coming January, don't we?
Absolutely. It's like John said. He made a good point there. You have to look at it like Gerrard and his team are still there. But Celtic are just, all they have to do is keep doing what they're doing, keep progressing, add to the team in January, which I fully expect them to do. I've heard some people talking about maybe 6 signings. That's maybe what we need. Whether we'll get that amount in remains to be seen. But I just keep doing what we're doing, and don't worry about what's happening. I know you can't ignore it and stuff, but don't really worry too much about what's happening across the city, because if we keep progressing the way we're progressing and add to the squad in January, then regardless of what anybody else does this season, Celtic are no going away, and that's a fact. They're no going away, whether they play good, bad, or indifferent. We'll be there right to the end, right to the death, and well, that's all we can do. We can just have to put ourselves in a position to be able to win this league, and I believe we can do that. And it was, as you say, it's been quite funny today. I don't like to gloat too much. This is their Brendan Rodgers baggy cans moment, but it's, you didn't like to gloat too much because Celtic went through that moment and they actually still won the league that season. If they get, depends who they get in, but this could galvanise that team, or it could send them the other way. We just don't know. Again, it remains to be seen, but all we can do is do Celtic and do Celtic to our very, very best and see where it takes us.
Yeah, I still think, Ross, I think you're right in regards to we can't really worry too much what's happening over there. I do think myself, John, that it's still going to be quite a tight title race. As Ross said, we don't know what way Rangers will take this, either to go backwards or to move forwards with a new manager. But we did talk about January there. Postecoglou came out in a recent interview saying he's looking to bolster his squad. As Ross alluded to, many of 6 signings have been mentioned. But what positions and key areas do you think need strengthened? We've seen Greg Taylor sign a new contract recently. We haven't even spoken about that. But is he a shoe-in at first choice left back? Are you happy with that?
No. I mean, see the way Ralston's performing right now, Juranovic isn't getting the first choice right back position. Let's just be clear. Like, he can't. Until Ralston does something monumental to absolutely fuck it up, he has to be first choice. And not just first choice, one of the first names on the team sheet, right? So then you've got a dilemma because we know how good Juranovic can be. And he plays left back. So I would continue playing Juranovic left back at the minute, even when Taylor comes back. In that case, but in January, I think the left back position is still an area that we need to strengthen. I think the forward line as well, getting another striker in will certainly help because by all accounts, it looks like we've only really got Kyogo and Giacomakis at the minute. I don't know the situation with Ayeti and the rest of it, but we need to strengthen in midfield as well. We spoke about. I mean, we had a wee sort of a wee joke about Wanyama coming back and all that, but I think having a player with a bit of dig, like we've spoken about numerous times, in that central mid, sort of to play that anchor position in midfield, would be beneficial as well. As it stands at the minute, Beaton seems to be playing the role perfectly fine. But you still want that depth because we know as this season progresses, we're going to need to like rotate players, and so having the variety and having the choice, I think is going to be key in the long run. So I mean, I'd like to see definitely left back, another striker, and a central midfielder. I think they 3 are by far the most important, but I'd like to see every sort of area strengthened.
Well, what about yourself, Ross? I mean, John, you said left back. I think they're like the Japanese boy at left back. I'm not going to pronounce his name. And a Japanese forward as well, Ross. So there is kind of things going on behind the scenes. And Postecoglou has alluded to he wants signings done quickly. Whether the Celtic board do that, which they never really do in January, is we'll have to wait and see. But in terms of positions from your point of view, what do you think is the key ones to strengthen?
The key ones sort of depends on who sort of goes in the January window. John kind of alluded to Ayeti there. I think if he goes, then I think we have to get another striker in. I don't think we could, although we play with essentially 3 forwards, I don't think that we can go with just Giacomakis and Kyogo. So if Ayeti goes, then you're maybe looking to bring somebody in there. Again, left back, it's a position that you could bring somebody in, but I think that only happens if maybe Bolingoli goes. I would like to see, I've said it previously, I would like to see a sort of midfielder coming in to play the anchor role, somebody that's obviously can play, but has got a bit of dig as well. I just think we still, even though Beaton's come in, he's done well, McCarthy could play that role. I still don't think they're that physical presence in the middle of the park that you'd be looking for. I still think that you need somebody bigger than that. Somebody not even so much bigger, but like sort of the Scott Brown mould. I'm not saying we're going to replace Scott Brown like for like, but that idea would be ideal. But again, I think I do believe Celtic will bring players in this January window. I think it will probably be the way Postecoglou's talking about, like you've said, they're looking at players now and they're sort of ahead of the game for the next window. I think that we'll probably have as strong a window as we can remember in January. I think the last time I can remember coming at a January window and thinking that's a good couple of signings we've brought in was the one when I'm sure it was we brought Chris Commons in and he made an immediate impact. He scored against Aberdeen in the semi-final and he scored against Rangers early doors after the January window. So if we can get somebody to come in and make that sort of impact straight away, then that's what you're looking for. But I think, as I've said, I think it depends on who leaves, because I know it's that way as well. Like you're wanting to get players in not only for the second half of the season, but bedded in for the Champions League assault. So possibly they might still bring guys into certain positions, even if they can't get rid of guys like ball and goalie. I think also as well, whether it's maybe as urgent, I think we need to bring another goalie in. And probably I would definitely cut my losses with Barkas, which we'll probably touch on. And I don't think you can go with Scott Bain as your number two. I think if Hart gets injured, you're really struggling. And I don't rate Hazard. I know he's a young guy, so I think we need to get another keeper in there. But the problem is as well, what level of keeper are you going to get? Are you going to get somebody that's any better than Scott Bain when they know fine well that they're going to come in and not oust Hart? So it's one of the ones I'm not a scout by any stretch. Maybe they've got eyes on somebody. Hopefully they have. But probably you would maybe get away until the January window, bringing a second choice keeper in and going with Bain at the moment. But I don't think going forward in the next 2 or 3 seasons, say that he can be your number two. But time will tell.
Yeah. Apart from Hart, the whole goalkeeping department of Celtic's absolutely shite, to be honest. Like, you've got Scott Bain, Barkas, which we'll touch upon later, and then the under-19 England goalkeeper was on the bench for the European game. He looks a decent prospect, so hopefully there's hope for him in the future. But we're speaking about players who might come in, John. A market that Celtic are well known to tap into every year, to be honest, is the Scottish one. And it's one I think is important to us as a club because we can't really lose that identity as well. What players have in the Scottish League at present moment would you consider for Celtic? Back in the summer, it was Nisbet, Ferguson, people like that. Is there anyone else that kind of cropped up and you thought, maybe could do a job?
Nah.
No?
I mean, that's just as simple as that. I don't think there's any... I mean, it would be nice if we were looking within the Scottish market to get guys, but I don't think there's any in positions that we need. Like, I don't think there's anybody in the Scottish League at the moment that we could get that I would say were key. They would, like Ross says, similar to other guys that are coming in. They're going to be coming in and be spend most of the time probably sitting on the bench, or it is more like, as we've seen with many other Scottish boys we've brought in that look talented, they're just not getting a chance. So, I mean, I think at this stage we need to just focus on building the team we've got and the style we've got, and know what. Like at the beginning of the year, we had a lot of suggestions and that, but again, we didn't know the sort of direction we were heading in, the way certain guys were going to perform and stuff like that. So I can't really see. I mean, like I said, I think there's just a couple of key areas we need to strengthen, and I don't think there's anybody within Scotland at the minute that could fill those roles.
What about yourself, Ross? Would you have any other suggestions?
I'm sorry with John. I can't really think of MD. Obviously, people like Nisbet and stuff have been sort of touched upon, but I know for me, no Nisbet. It baffles me sometimes how, like, you've got Celtic fans that will turn around and say, like, Lyndon Dykes wouldn't have him anywhere near Celtic, yet the same folk would have Nisbet. He can't get into the Scotland team before Dykes, and he's absolutely nowhere near as good as Dykes. It's just a bizarre one. That no, for me, there's no MD that really stands out. and so certainly in the Scottish League, any Scottish players that would sort of add to the first 11. There might be somebody that I'm forgetting about that might be a decent squad player, but no, even like Lewis Ferguson for me. I'm not having that either. I don't think he's good enough for Celtic. Nobody off the top of my head, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, that's fair enough. But one thing that isn't bizarre is our man Ange Postecoglou, Ross, winning Manager of the Month award. 7 wins from 8, 2 European games in there against Ferencváros, home and away, fantastic results. And he's got the recognition. Now, a guy who came in, as John rightly said, we didn't know his style at the beginning of the season. That's why all these suggestions were thrown about. But just yourself, Ross, I mean, Manager of the Month for this guy, it's incredible, isn't it?
It's brilliant. Deserves the recognition. He's starting to, like we've said in previous podcasts, he's starting to get the team playing the way he wants to play, and it'll only get better when he adds more his signings that are going to be suited to the style he wants to play. I think we're really starting to motor now, I would say. Between now and the next Glasgow derby, I think we've got the more favourable fixtures. So again, I think that we can continue this run a good form. I'm not saying we'll win every game, but I think if Rangers get to the next Glasgow derby and they've no dropped any points, then fair play to them. You have to take your hat off. But Postecoglou has got the team playing really well, and he deserves his Manager of the Month award because like you've said, he's only drew 1 game since the last international break. So that's brilliant, really. You couldn't ask for much more other than a full quota wins, but bar for a poor penalty kick, he would have had that.
That's my trigger word. Don't mention that penalty. But look, John. I mean, one thing we did see was him in the photo with the backroom staff. Obviously not his. And then Eddie Howe came out and said that he couldn't get his backroom staff organised to go to Celtic. And while Postecoglou travelled all the way over from Japan, he took this opportunity on and he's grabbed it with both hands. And yes, obviously during the bad run results, people question tactics and methods, but that's always going to happen. But right at this present moment, it's a good achievement for him.
Absolutely. I mean, it's well deserved, and I don't think anybody can really argue it. I mean, I'd like to hear somebody's argument against it, like who other than him would deserve it. So, I mean, like you say, he's fantastic run of results as of late. Like Ross says, we're really starting to motor now. We're getting a bit of momentum and pace, and I think there's very little in the way teams that are going to be stopping us unless they defend like Livingston did and get lucky. So, I mean, I'm very, very confident that, and the best it is I still don't think we've hit 5th gear yet. I mean, how many gears have we got? Because it just seems to be, it's like, I think we're still, I think we're still sort of getting there. I don't think we're there yet, but you're definitely starting to see it. And once these guys start playing again more regularly together and things start to click a bit more, and then it's going to be phenomenal. I mean, it's already really exciting and phenomenal to watch, but I just think it's just going to progress, and I don't think anybody other in the league other than Rangers deserve it, and it's going to be the first of many this season, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you say we haven't hit top gear, and I totally agree, but one thing that did hit full speed was Gerrard's train down to London, but sure. But, I mean, Ross, in that press conference, he did say, in terms, a reporter asked him a question about obviously what's going on across the city, and he said, I'm just making everyone really aware we can't be distracted by anyone or anything else, because when you are trying to build something and be successful, you can't afford to be looking over your fence to see what other people are doing. And I thought that was fantastic. And it's the way he handles the media, I think's excellent. And maybe Rodgers to a certain extent did that, but Postecoglou really takes him to task, doesn't he?
Yeah, I've never seen, certainly in my lifetime as well as I can remember, a manager handling the media so well. They try and back him into corners and pigeonhole him where he worked previously, and he's every single time he's got an answer, and it's like Willie said in the last podcast, it's diplomatic, and you're like, 1 minute you're like trying to push him into a corner, and the next minute you're like agreeing with him, and you don't know why. He's just got he's no witty as such. He comes across very educated, and it's just well versed with the media, and it just comes across in every single interview he does, and it's great to see, and he represents the club in the best way possible. I cannot fault the guy one single bit, the way he represents our club and the way he defends our club. And I always talked up Neil Lennon for the way he defended our club, and he did. But he didn't maybe always do it in the best fashion, but it was always meant with the right intentions. But Postecoglou just does it every time, man, and it's just, you just walk away or go away for interviews and you're like, wow, this guy just knows what he's doing. He's just got it. Doesn't suffer fools gladly, and he's just, I just love the guy. I can't speak about him highly enough.
I think just what you were saying there, Ross, as well, about in regards to how he just shuts reporters and that down. But the way he carries himself and the way he defends the club, like you say, it's different for the way Lennon done it. And I think that's one of the things that we all like. He doesn't leave, like, he's blunt, but no, like you said, he's very educated the way he sort of constructs his responses and stuff like that. And I mean, like you said, we know, and we knew, I think we commented on the early doors when he first came in. If you remember, on earlier episodes, that the Scottish media were kind of worried about how he was going to handle it, because
that's what I was about to say. Either, why do you think the Scottish media have this sort of kind of, not agenda, but disrespect towards him?
That's just the Scottish media. They're assholes. They've always been assholes. And we knew it doesn't matter who the manager is. They're going to try. They'll try and rile them up. They'll ask stupid questions in order to get a response. So they've got something to print. It's not just Celtic managers that get it. It's every manager. But I think just because of the size of the job, and like you say, is because he was a relative unknown, at least in this part of the world, and he came in. The press thought he was going to be an easy target, and they're trying to trip him up with stuff like, "Oh, did you know about such and such?" Like what the whole Walter Smith thing, like he lived in a fucking cave or something. Like, he was an international manager, for Christ's sake, and he's won leagues in other countries as well. It's not like he's been managing 30 years. I'm pretty sure he's well versed in football and who's who, and he's heard certain guys and all that. So, but again, that's the media to a T. I'm not saying every single person within the media is like that, because we know people that are in the media that are genuine. It's just very few and far between. But the Scottish sports media, especially when it comes to football, I've just no time for. And we knew that we were going to get to all that shit, but the way he handles them is absolutely perfect, and it just makes Ange even more endearing, at least to me.
Another thing makes him endearing as well. I don't know if you guys seen it. He was at the Tommy Burns story in the Carrydale suite, just there with his wife and his family, and it's just, again, what you said, Johnny doesn't endear himself to the Celtic fans, and he never ever comes across where he's always like, I was a Celtic fan all my life. He didn't say all that stuff. He's just kind of bought into the culture of the club, and it's just really refreshing to see, instead of having them kind of kiss arses who say, oh, I've always kept an eye on Celtic, I've always watched them. He's never done that, and he's just come across as a genuine man. To be fair, I think we can all agree on them. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, what did he say when he came in? Of course, he's heard the Celtic.
Heard of him, yeah.
I mean, what manager hasn't he? It's not like we're just a small thing. We're very well known globally. But like you said, he's never tried to kid on that he's a Celtic fan. He's never tried, but like you say, the longer, the more time at least he spends here, the more he's sort of buying into the culture, and he's spending time with the fans after games. You're seeing him talking to fans and taking pictures with fans. You see, like the Tommy Burns story thing, going to that event with his wife and then sitting talking to fans who were there, taking pictures with them. There was no element of like, oh, listen, we're just out for a night out or anything like that. Like, can he try to pass it off and all that? He seems like a really genuinely nice guy, and he obviously cares about the club. And I mean, it's just great to see, very, very refreshing as well for a manager, because a lot of the time you see these managers out with, like, you see them on the park and at the sidelines and stuff like that, and you only other than that, it's only really what you hear in the news. So seeing that he's gone to these events and he's taking the time out for the fans is fantastic, I think.
Yeah. And I'd just add to that, he's here, and it feels like he's here for like a period of time. It doesn't seem to me like he's came and thought, I'll use Celtic as a stepping stone. I don't think he's looking at us as a stepping stone. I think he's looking at us as a long-term project, and he's just state me selling all things Celtic, and I just love it. It's refreshing to see.
Definitely.
It's great.
Yeah, I mean, we do speak upon as fans of managers banning the cultures, players coming in and banning the culture of Celtic, but again, we'll go back to like the outgoings of transfers and stuff, and there's a few players who John haven't quite hit the heights or haven't quite bought into Celtic's methods or could kind of cope with the pressure of playing for Celtic, mainly Barkas, £5 million, Ajeti, £5 million, Sorrow, £3 million. That's a big, massive waste of money from Celtic's point of view, isn't
it? In terms of Barkas and Ajeti, they can go. I don't think they'll be missed. Sorrow, I still rate Sorrow. I still think there's a player there. We've seen the elements here. I mean, I might. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. I might just be saying this because how dire last season was, and when you contrast how we were playing towards the latter end of that season and how we're playing now, it's difficult to say. But I still think there's a player in Sorrow. And we saw glimpses of what he could be capable of last season, and you can't fault the guy's work rate and stuff like that, and he always seems quite eager, maybe over eager sometimes, and I just think that he needs to calm down a wee bit. But I mean, I think there's definitely a player there, and I think if it given enough time and chances, I think he could progress and be a decent player for us. Barkas by. Ajeti by, I mean, in fairness, Barkas and Ajeti haven't had a lot in terms of stats as well. Barkas, though, as a goalkeeper, for me, you either are or you aren't. He never hit the heights he did. What was it previous? AAK?
AAK, yeah.
I can never fucking pronounce that.
So hard to say.
I know, it's 3 letters as well.
Again.
But you just end up shutting him up all the place. But I mean, he's not quite hit the heights that he did there, or at least, again, based on YouTube clips and stuff that we've seen, anybody that's sort of done their YouTube research, obviously these highlight reels are made up of their best moments anyway. But from what we've seen, his hands were made of paper, and it just didn't seem like he had it. It just didn't seem like he was adjusting. The best thing for him would probably to stop his career remaining stagnant and not going anywhere is leaving. And you need to try and recoup some of the money for him, because the outlay for him, based on what we got, was terrible. And the same Ajeti, it baffled me we even paid that for him in the first place. But again, he's not kind of lived up to the expectations and stuff like that, and the chances that he has had, he's not taken them. And you have to have a point where you say, well, how many more chances are you going to give them? So, I mean, if the opportunity comes up and clubs are willing to pay a bit of money and you're recouping some of those funds back, then take it. You have to take it. And we just need to focus on what we've got to do and building on it. Yeah.
I mean, John makes a great point, Ross, in terms of the players who come in and haven't quite made the grade. And you look at Barkas, he was a league winner with AAK Athens, Champions League as well, playing the group stage. Alban Ajeti, Swiss international, winning titles with Basel before he moved to West Ham. Sorrow, not so much. He was a young, inexperienced player coming from the Ivory Coast. But why is it you think these players come in and I wouldn't say crumble, but just don't quite take the chances when they're given to them?
If I knew that, I probably wouldn't be sitting on a podcast and painting for a living during the day.
What would you be doing?
Working at Celtic as a coach.
you and Strachan on the laptop?
Oh, well, I don't know if I'd be on the laptop. I'm not very tech savvy. Can't even get my camera angle right. I honestly don't know why. Sorrow, he came in last season, and I think we were just so bad that he looked great. He did. Don't get me wrong. He did. I know he did do pretty well, and we were all. It was that sort of wee G up we were clinging on to anything last year, but now that the dust settled and you see who else is in front of him, and you watch him like playing, I think Sorrow's all sorts of rubbish. I don't rate him at all. I don't think he's good enough for Celtic by any stretch.
Really?
And I
Really?
would get rid of him tomorrow. Really, I would, because he's going to play in the sort of role you would say where Beaton plays. He's not getting in there before Beaton. He's not getting in there before McCarthy. And we're talking about. I still think like I fit McCarthy's better than Sorrow for me, but he's not getting in before they two, right? For me. And then we're talking about maybe bringing in another sort of anchor man that would maybe challenge or be the man that could play before Beaton and McCarthy. So that then puts him fourth. Nah, I just don't think there's a point in keeping him. No, for me.
See, I don't think his best position would be that sort of anchor man for me. I think he's too small for that. But I still think he's got a role to play. Even just in front of him, like.
So is he going to oust Rogic or McGregor or Turnbull?
No,
further?
Absolutely not. But I'm saying I still think that for me, I still think there's a talent in there, and like if you can get him out on loan, get him some game time in that, let him develop a bit more. Like if you make him a sort of longer term project, I think you would bear the fruits of it. Personally.
Well, I mean, how long's he been at Celtic now? Maybe three years. How long term you want to make this project?
Is it? I thought it was on a couple of years.
Well, I mean, what age is he? 20? I don't know, actually. 23?
I don't know, but I still think there's he is a still a young guy, and I still just, well, for me personally, anyway, I mean, I wouldn't say he was a disaster, but...
I don't think, I just didn't rate him. I think he's reckless, bit of headless chatting sometimes. That's just, not everybody will agree with that, evidently, but I wouldn't keep him. Who else were we talking about?
Barkas.
Barkas. I mean, he's obviously gone to his YouTube reel. He has been a good keeper. He's played for Greece. He's won league titles. But he's came to Celtic. The only thing I can think is he's came to Celtic in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, and he's just not settled. And then he's made a couple of mistakes early on, which would make it even worse for him. Then he's been taken out the team, back in the team. Then the whole team was unsettled. The defence was garbage. The manager didn't have a clue what he was doing at the finish up. So all the things put together can really knock a guy's confidence, and I think that's what's happened to him. But then he started this season under Ange. It's a bit more settled. We're coming out of the pandemic to an extent, and he's still making the same mistakes. So, yeah, you try and make excuses for him, but in the end, he's just not good enough. Ayeti, why he's not making it, I think his career was stalling at West Ham anyway, and for some unbeknown reason, Celtic shell out £5 million on him when they could have got Ivan Toney for an extra whatever it was, 2 million or something like that.
I don't even think it was that much.
You don't want to go over all ground, but we're talking about why he's not made the grade. I just don't know why. Like, I've made a case for him and said he looks like a decent player. He came in, he did start okay, but he's just fell away, and it's like John said, he's had chance after chance. How many more chances is he going to get? His career was stalling before we bought him, and it's stalled even more. And I don't know. It's just you think spending £5 million on a player, you're going to get a good one, but it doesn't always guarantee it. And again, it's another signing. And don't get me wrong, I was going to say it's another sign, a long line of signings that we've got wrong. We've got a lot right as well. So I'm no like poking at Celtic with that by any stretch, but some signings work, some signings don't, and they're three for me that obviously haven't worked. But why? Well, we can only guess. We'll never really know.
I mean, I think you're right in saying that with Barkas just not being. I mean, we've seen it with other players as well that come here with a bit of reputation. And not just for Celtic, for other clubs, Joey Barton. But like some people don't settle, and it's maybe it's just the pace of the game, the physicality of the game. They just can't adjust to because it's completely different for other countries that guys are coming from. So I think that plays a part. I don't know. I mean, for Barkas, there's no excuse because you're a keeper, so it doesn't matter. You have to stop the ball in the fucking back of the net. It's like it doesn't matter what pace the game's at. But if you're outfield, and it's a wee bit different because obviously depending on the style of football and the opposition you're up against, it's like you're all over the place. So I think that can play a part. For maybe in that case, yeah, he's the same. Sorrow maybe even to an extent is maybe they just no adjusting to the pace of the game up here, because I know a lot of people look at the Scottish game like it's crap or whatnot, like that, but I mean it's a physical game up here, and it is quite fast paced as well. I think people don't watch enough Scottish football if they can't see it, but we've seen it with other boys coming up for England, like I said, Joey Barton, who thought they were going to boss it, and I've just get put in their place and actually sent away back in with their tail between their legs. Shane Duffy as well. Again, I know last season wasn't it. I mean, there was something clearly no right within Celtic last year. I think we could not agree with that.
Aye, well, look what he's done in the Premier League for Brighton this season. It's like
exactly. It's crazy.
That's because they play a totally different way, and you have to. They defend from the 16-yard line. So, do you know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. It's like taking a lot of different things into consideration. That doesn't necessarily mean that these players are crap. They're just no good for us, or they're no good for this league. And that's the same. I mean, the same way. Who did we have? Teemu Pukki.
Unless you're John Joe Kenny.
Aye, was he not getting linked with some crazy teams after his loan season was as well? But Pookie's another prime example. He just couldn't hit the ground running with us. Then he goes down to Norwich and he's like scores about 30 goals a season. It's crazy. So it does happen. So there's never any guarantee when you bring somebody in that they're going to adjust to life here. They're going to adjust to the pace of the game and the physicality and the new style of football that they might be playing under the manager. So I mean, if you take everything into account, then it's like I think we have to be a wee bit more forgiving on some players, because I think we're quick to turn around and just immediately start calling people shite because they're not hitting the ground running, but it doesn't work like that.
At the time when you're watching Celtic, you just go, "You're shite."
I've cussed all sorts at the TV when the things aren't going right. But afterwards, and you've had a bit of time to calm down and reflect, you're like, right, okay, maybe I was a bit harsh. But I've said a lot worse than you're shite.
I'm pretty sure you have, John, but we're not going to end that. But look, one man who hasn't come up from England, and that's Eddie Howe. We'll go back to this guy again, and he came out in his Newcastle press conference. He's just been announced as the new Newcastle manager. I'll come to yourself, John, first. And he basically said, I mean,
much time ago.
We're going to kind of tone it down here a wee bit. He basically said that he couldn't get his backroom team together. He didn't want to take a job of such size and what he knew needed done by himself, so he didn't take it. He was open and honest with the Celtic board, and he finished off to say there was no problems with Celtic whatsoever. So what does that tell you? What did that statement from him say to you, like in terms of the outcomes and what we thought at the time?
Well, the first thing I will say is it's a lot later than it should have been. When all this fell through, he should have come out with some sort of statement, at least for the Celtic fans, just to let them know this is the reason why, right? I think that it's very, very late. However, in saying that, I'm happy that he has commented on it, because it's put to bed a lot of the rumours that it's such and such that's caused it. I mean, I think as Celtic fans, a lot of us at the time were pointing the finger at the board and saying, you're at fault, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. But he's come out and said, and I believe him, and I respect him all the more for it, because he's come out, he's been open, he's been honest, and he's turned around and says, the size of the job at hand, he was willing to take it on, right? Let's get that out of the way, first of all. He was approached, he accepted it in principle, and on the premise that he got to bring in his team because he wanted the same guy, he wanted the people that he knew working around about him in order to take on the project because of how big it was and to make it work. For various, he never went into details, but for various reasons, he couldn't get his team together. And as such, he felt that if he walked into this job himself, it was too big for him. And he wasn't ready for that. So, I mean, I respect him for it. I think that it's an honest thing to do, and it takes quite a bit of balls to come out and admit that he didn't think he was ready. People say, and William, he'll ask him next time he's on what he thinks, but earlier on in the group chat, we had this disagreement, and it was like the Newcastle and the pressure that's going to come with that job, and that might be a bit much, but you can't compare the two. Newcastle have just got new owners coming in. They were never in a similar position as us. It wasn't a case of they're fighting to win back a title. They're not as big as we are in terms of fan base. They've not got that same sort of pressure to win every game. Now they've got these new owners coming in, and they've got a pretty big what's by all accounts is expected to be a pretty big transfer budget. Eddie Howe is now in a position where no doubt he's been given assurances that he's going to have time to build the team that he wants and to get them as a team that's contending and competing for a title. But I don't think anybody's expecting immediate fireworks. These things take time, and I think that it's a much more suitable job for him, and I wish him all the best. I mean, it's hard to say because I despise English football and the money that's involved in it, but I mean, I genuinely don't wish any ill on him and the rest of it, and I'm happy that he finally came out and he's left. He's sort of been open and honest with Celtic fans as well, and I respect him all the more for it, because as I says, to admit that it was too big for him and he didn't want to take it on himself, to me says that, well, let's look at it this way, right? And this is the last thing I'll say, and I'll give Ross a chance to obviously make a comment. We know I talked to him. I just kid on, you're looking at your watch, Stephen. But let's say Eddie Howe did decide he didn't get his background team in right, and he's like, right, it's all right, I can handle this myself, I'll come in. And then he tried to take on the role. The rebuilding project that we were in, the pressure he's on immediately to hit the ground running and to start fighting again to win this title back, because he can't be put in a position where his biggest rivals start running away and further than they already were. So the pressure on you is immense. Maybe he starts feeling that pressure early doors, and then we're in a similar situation as they are right now, where the manager walks after so many months, because something else has maybe come up and he's felt it's a better opportunity for him, or that he just the job, he wasn't handling the job and he wasn't the right man for the job. So to come out and say I wasn't the right guy at the time, I wasn't allowed to get the pieces in place that I needed, I thought was quite admirable in a sense. And again, it's kind of restored my respect for Eddie Howe a wee bit. Yeah,
and come to yourself, Ross. I mean, you're right to say, John, William has a totally different perspective of this. I think his words were he shot it. So, but come to yourself, how does that statement come across to you? Because as John said, many Celtic fans believe that he's being open and honest, he's telling the truth, and why is he got a reason to lie? Really, isn't it?
He's got no reason to lie. He's got nothing to gain really out of it. I pretty much agree with everything that John's just said. I would much rather that Eddie Howe has done what he done, and like basically it takes a bigger man to admit that something's too big for you on your own. And I would rather he's turned round and said, look, I'm not ready for this, I can't do this sort of thing, rather than just try and brass it and make an arse of it, and then we're back to square one again, and we're sitting like, I know we're behind Rangers at the moment, but we could have been in a hell of a lot worse position than what we are right now had he taken on the job. Like John, I respect him for being honest with himself and being honest with the board, and eventually being honest with the Celtic support. He doesn't owe us anything. He didn't need to. I know it's a wee bit later than what you would think, but he still doesn't owe us anything. He didn't need to come out having taken the Newcastle job and say what he said, but he did. He did say it, and I respect that. And like John says, I've no ill feeling towards him. And at the end of the day, like your old granny would say, what's for you'll no go by you, son. And we've got Ange Postecoglou. We've got Ange Postecoglou in the door, and it's just great.
Everything, yeah, exactly. Everything's worked out exactly as I think it was supposed to. I'm a firm believer that things happen for a reason, like, you know, that kind of pish. But it's like sometimes things just fall into place, and like I say, I'm happy that Howe walked away feeling that he wasn't ready for it. I'm happy that it resulted in us getting Ange in, because I think the position we're in, and like you say, is long term now. We've got a guy in place who's going to be there for the foreseeable, and genuinely is looking at this like a project and trying to make us a force again. I think that's fantastic, and I think we've been a lot better off for it. So, exactly, no negative energy towards Eddie Howe whatsoever.
And can I also say sorry, Stephen.
No, go ahead.
The Newcastle job isn't a bigger job than the Celtic job, and I agree with John again in the sense that Eddie Howe would have been under a hell of a lot more pressure to get it right at Celtic and immediately than what he is with Newcastle, where he's going to be given time. It's going to, and he probably knows his sale will only be there for 2 years as a stopgap sort of thing to take them to that next stage, like your sort of Mark Hughes at Man City guy. When they first got taken over, he was the manager. He's seen them through to that next stage. Brought in a couple of the bigger name players, Robinho, Bellamy, guys like that. He's going to do that sort of thing, and he's going to get 2 years. And the premise will be, if you can win as a trophy in that time, great. But the premise of his job will be top half, maybe top 8, take us to that stage, and then once we get to the top 8, Europe, then they'll move him on. They can bring in a bigger manager again. They're in Europe. They can attract a better type of player again, and it'll be another manager that will then take that job. Whereas at Celtic, come in, a rebuild, but okay, you're rebuilding, you're in a process and all the rest of it, but you still need to win the league. That's too much pressure. And if he's not got the guys round about him, then if they didn't feel confident in doing it, then I totally respect it.
Yep, definitely. And can I just say as well, you made a good point there, Ross. We all know how volatile the management within the English Premier League is. If for whatever reason things didn't work out, he'll be out the door, and I'm sure he's well aware of this. But like you says, I'm sure that the new Newcastle owners aren't going to be expecting immediate fireworks. And if they do win a title, then maybe he'll be given a wee bit more time. But I mean, look at what happened with Ranieri after Leicester won the league. Absolutely nobody would have guessed Leicester was winning the league that season, right? And then was it the following season they got after a pretty poor start? They kind of having the sort of same or sitting roughly in the table where you would maybe expect a Leicester to be anyway. But immediately just got rid of him, the guy, after winning you the first league title, splitting the big teams and winning the first league title in how long? Yeah, can he stand English Premier League? Can he stand English Premier League?
Well, you talked about it enough. Are you finished?
No. There's a difference though between me sitting here and fucking denouncing it and how annoying certain things are and commenting on like how absolutely ridiculous certain scenarios are than sitting here like other people might do and absolutely gushing about it like it's the greatest thing ever. It's pathetic.
Yeah. But look, as Ross said and you said, it takes a special kind of man, and we got our manager of the month, Ange Postecoglou, and that's the chapter in that book closed. And we'll move on, guys, because this is the end of the podcast. But the quiz again's back between John and Ross. He's ready. He's ready. So again, you know the score here. So 5 questions, first to 3. He's ready.
Yeah, man.
Yep. Celtic have 2 Israeli internationals in their team. Who are they?
Abada and Beaton.
1-0. Anthony Ralston had 2 loan spells at which Scottish clubs?
St Johnstone and...
I don't even know. You've got fire in.
St Johnstone and Dundee United.
2-0. Oh my God. Right. How many points are Celtic off top spot?
5.
4.
Fuck.
Ross, you win that one. John.
Oh. See, I'm listen, I've never made any. Well done, Ross.
I'm not actually embarrassed. It's no an achievement beating you in a quiz, John.
It's really not. if you're losing to me in a quiz, it's something you should really be thinking about. But
I've been there.
No, yeah, that's right. Actually,
I've been there too. You beat me in a quiz. I'm pretty sure.
I get lucky now and again.
Yeah, no, we all get lucky now and again. But look, bring us to the end of the show. I just want to make the listeners and the viewers aware. We won't have any Tuesday episode next week, just due to work commitments and stuff like that. We'll be back again on the Friday. And in the meantime, on YouTube, again, if you like what you're seeing, hit subscribe and the wee bell so you're notified when we go live. I think we're, 6 off 500 subscribers now, boys, isn't it? Something like that.
So
6 or 7, aye. So
yeah, so get us to that 500. We really appreciate it. It doesn't sound a big number, but to us it means a lot. And again, guys, it's been a great show. Have you enjoyed it?
Aye, mate, it's good. It's
Aye,
always good
really
to get on
good.
and talk about Celtic. So,
And can I just say, come on, Scotland tomorrow night. 3 more points, and we're in. Well, 3 more points, and we get to play a really hard team. So, it's quite exciting.
3 more points, and we get to watch us fail again.
Oh, right, you. Enough of that.
I mean, I genuinely wish Scotland all the best. Obviously, I want my country, my birthday, fucking do well, but I'm just so used to them disappointing me. It's hard to. Yeah, I'll try and be positive.
That was you trying to be positive. What?
Aye, I'm apologising though. I know because William will listen to this and he'll be cussing me. So I'm sorry.
So am I, under my breath.
Under your breath.
But everyone who's listening, watching, stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.